Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to the playlist where I'm covering about serverless. So in previous couple of videos we have already discussed about serverless framework. We know we actually discussed about how to deploy the Lambda using serverless framework, right? Earlier we were doing manual things and now we know how to use serverless framework, how to configure the AWS for serverless and then start deploying the Lambda. We have also seen how to do the offline testing and offline invocation of Lambda if before actually deploying the Lambda to AWS, okay, using serverless. Now, next thing what we are going to do is this. We have already done, like we are using serverless and we are using this Lambda and we are able to deploy this Lambda to AWS. So we are not going to have a single Lambda. We also going to have, you can say, the API gateway, and then we have Lambda. All these things will be there. So let's just draw that what all things we have. So we are going to have API gateway, and we have also seen the local testing of a Lambda where it was pointing to some HTTP server and we were hitting the REST API in the last video. Right, so we have this API gateway, and it's not like a single Lambda. We are going to have multiple Lambdas. Let's say you're writing some APIs and then you have a DynamoDB. Right, DynamoDB is a data source from where we will actually fetch the data, read, scan, update, all these things we will be doing. Right, so this is the flow. This is how it is going to work. And now if I want to set up this infrastructure locally using serverless, and then after testing it locally, if I deploy this, then we will see how this is possible, right? Because this is what we wanted to achieve. If we are able to do this, then we know like a lot of things about serverless, how to use it, and how to do the configurations and all these things we have seen, right? So this is our main agenda, that we should be able to achieve this. Okay, now instead of Dynamo, you can have a MongoDB, you can have MySQL. That depends on your need, right? If you have other than DynamoDB, then it is very easy for the local testing. You can actually create a local instance of MongoDB, MySQL. But when it is even DynamoDB, you can actually install it locally, right? So that we will see, and all these things we are going to control through serverless.yml. In serverless.yml, we will provide the configurations, and then for each and every Lambda configuration, we will bind HTTP event. So if you see this, currently we don't have functions. We will add functions and we will bind them to the HTTP events, so that whenever any HTTP event is occurring, like we will bind it to the particular event, HTTP get, put, post, and they should be routes, right? So that particular Lambda will execute, and then it will actually get the data from DynamoDB. Okay, so we are going to do this local setup first. The only challenge here is the configuring the serverless.yml and adding all the functions, right? So let's say we have the functions. First we will write them, and we are going to execute this first locally. So we have introduced this DynamoDB local. This is important thing. We are going to test it with Dynamo. So DynamoDB local and serverless offline. And stage and name and reason we have, you can also add a profile, like we are going to use serverless user profile, which we have configured with AWS credentials. Okay, so now if you talk about the functions, so here we are going to provide IAM role statement, environments, and all these things. So in the environment, what we need is the DynamoDB table name, and we don't have a DynamoDB table, so we can generate it from the name of service, the name of stage, all these things. So we will first add the environment, like this is the DynamoDB table, and service name, it will use the service name, stage is dev, right? So it will actually create the table name accordingly, and we will use the same table name everywhere. And then second thing is IAM role statement. So this is important, whatever we write in the IAM role statement, because we are going to give Lambda permission to execute DynamoDB, execute queries on DynamoDB. So here IAM role statement, the effect is allow. Now we will add actions. Now what all actions you wanted to give? DynamoDB query, scan, get item. Let's say I'm giving all the actions to this lambda. I mean, we are going to have multiple lambdas, so I'm giving these roles globally, right? And then resource, you will get an ARN for that particular resource, and ARN we can actually format, we can create if we know the DynamoDB table name and the region. Region is going to be US East 1, stage is Dell, and the table name is this. So we will just use these variables and we will construct the resource ARN. Okay, this is our IAM role statement. This is done. We have the plugins, and now we can actually focus on the functions. Functions, let's say I'm doing a create. Okay, create function will have a handler. So here is my handler. Inside handler, like who is going to handle this, the file name or something, and the function name. So inside to-dos I will have a create file. Inside that I have a create as a handler, to do create.js, right? This is the create I'm using. Okay, so I will just add them and we will just look into the code and we will write the code for them. Events, right? Here is what I'm doing, the binding of this. So event is HTTP event, and then I have like these three attributes. Path is HTTP, and I have a path, so let's add a tab here. My path is to-dos. Okay, method is post, I'm creating a to-dos, and cross origin is true. Similarly, I can add other methods like list, get, this is create. So I'll just copy this and I will use the same code. We'll just change the variable names. So this is create. Now I can just say it as a get, and it is mapped with get file, and get is the handler function name. To do here method will be just changed to get. Let's use it as a get by ID, right? So here to do is get, and path can be ID, and here we can just do a get, cross origin true, and then we can have one more method which will do the list. I mean, I'm trying to get all the list of all the to-dos. So it will also be get. Here it will be list.list. This is how I will do the mapping, and I'm getting all the to-dos for this particular list, right? Then we can have update, delete, same thing, same story. I will repeat again, and then we will write these functions, and we will use Node.js SDK for AWS to access DynamoDB resources. So there can be update. The only thing is update by ID. So here you can say update. Update is a function name, to-dos, and I will be updating based on particular ID. Instead of get, I will have put method. Same I can use for the definition of delete. I will be doing delete by ID. So this is delete. So you can see I have written 5 lambda function we are deploying with this. Delete.delete, HTTP method is delete, and delete by ID. Okay, so this is the basic mappings. I mean, we haven't created resources for creating the DynamoDB, like what all partition key attribute names that DynamoDB table is going to have, that we will create in the resources. So if you see the main tags, we have the providers, we have the plugins, we have the functions. Functions is all the lambda function definition, plugins, provider, the global configurations, your environments, your timeouts, your concurrency, all these things you will define here. Timeout, memory, and all. If you want to override them, you will do that at function level, right? Here all the functions are going to share this DynamoDB table as an environment and the IAM role statement, because we are all going to access this DynamoDB table. The another thing you can do is, currently we have given all the access to all the lambdas, which they can query, scan, get, put, update, but you can also provide this permission to a particular lambda. Okay, I'm giving this get method to only for get item or scan or query. Update will have only DynamoDB put item. Delete will have only DynamoDB delete item permissions. Okay, so this we have created. Now we have to do some few additional things to get this DynamoDB running locally. Okay, so for that, I also struggled while setting this up. So here is the important point is we are actually installing DynamoDB local. If you just do this, we are using some serverless DynamoDB local, right? So we will be actually running this DynamoDB on some HTTP port, and we will just use the start script, right? So what we are going to do is, first of all, we will create a resources using CloudFormation template, and we will write a custom template so that we can run the DynamoDB locally on a particular stage. Stage is like dev here, which is being used everywhere, right? And once the DynamoDB is started, we can actually do the query. Now rest all things are like, okay, how to write these lambdas, create, delete, get, list, update. We are going to access the DynamoDB, and we will just get is, okay, create, get the all the to-dos, delete is delete by ID, right? So we are going to use the DynamoDB operations for them. Okay, so let's see that in the next video, what all CloudFormation resources we have to create for DynamoDB.